This is Call with Dads, where we dive into the ups, downs, and everything in between when it comes to being a dad. Here, it's all about connecting with a community of dads who are committed to learning and leveling up as fathers. Welcome to Call with Dads. Let's talk.
No,
Yeah,
nor am I. I mean,
yeah,
there's too many things worth more. Well, here, let's
right.
do this. Let's dive in because I
Okay,
think a
yeah,
half
let's
hour
jump
ago we said let's dive in.
in.
So part of
Yeah,
the problem with us is we're too easily sidetracked. Squirrel.
yeah, squirrel. That's
Yeah.
me.
So, but this one we're doing dad hacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple of mine. There's one that you mentioned that kind of popped in my head that I wanted to bring up, but
Yeah.
there's overall the there's there's
Something in my
quite a
throat.
there's quite a bit of different things you can do. So I know you said you did some research as well, different types, and you have a
Hmm.
few of your own. I
Yeah.
mean, what let's start off with really figuring out what kind of things you consider dad hack, because like there's dad hack in communication, in education,
Yeah.
in all
Hmm.
different areas. So
Right.
it's you can almost say anything's a dad hack in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, something in my throat. I mean, when I think about dad hacks, it's like, I mean, it's obviously some sort of way to an easier version of whatever it is you're doing. You know what I mean? If you're doing something and it's difficult, there's clearly an easy way to figure it out and fix it and do it a better, smarter, more efficient way. That's essentially what a dad hack is. Now, if I Google dad hacks, it comes up with all kinds of like artsy things to do. This is how you can, you know, have things to do with your kid. Like I think here, top 10 dad hacks. I pulled it up on my computer.
All right.
Um, it was water painting, balloon party, hula hoop walking aid, diaper change hack, sock glove trick, pool noodle edge protector, car seat cooler, toy rotation system, pen cap corn skewer, and laundry basket bath. Those are the top 10. Well, I actually didn't Google it. I grokked it. I went to Grok and asked it
Okay.
to give me a list of the top 10 dad hacks. So to me, those aren't dad hacks. Those are like project things. Those are just project ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now
They're
see,
not really hacks, dad hacks.
right. Now see, I did grok real quick. I'm like,
Hmm.
because I was curious what AI would spit out.
Right,
Now, I worded it dad hacks that were worth knowing.
right.
So it came up with things like monitor morning ritual streamlining, things to make
Hmm.
your mornings go a little smoother.
Right.
So I
That
mean,
is what I'm thinking.
right,
Right,
that's the same line that I'm on as well. There's chore gamification, which
right.
basically takes the any chores, like for an example, I have a list, to-do list with money value on
Hmm.
the chores. Now, I know there's debates about allowances and paying for chores and all this, but like one thing that I also do is I tell my son, your job is to learn and to do stuff. Well,
Hmm.
telling him it's his job indicates there's a payoff for doing your job. So to me,
Right.
with that, I'm like, okay, here it is. You have to do so much time at researching your spelling, improving your spelling. You
Hmm.
get X amount of cents. I think the big thing I do, like $1 is a max, and that's going the whole day controlling your emotions.
Yeah.
So if he can go the
Keeping
whole,
calm and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, well, not just keeping calm. He's 7 years old. So, I mean, that's like saying a dog not walking
Yeah.
on all fours. You know, a 7-year-old boy is going to be doing something crazy,
Yeah,
but
right.
not letting like his emotions get him all upset and going
Yeah.
nuts. And
Don't sling your dinner if that's something you just decide, I don't want to eat that.
well, see, that's dinner. Speaking of food, it's like one thing we've started implementing is because my kids will sit there and take forever to eat.
Yes.
So we've done two things with that. We've cut back the amount of food we give them. So that before we would give them everything and expect a little bit of leftovers, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Now we give them probably half of that and say, okay, if you want more, there's more out there.
Right.
But you have to eat all this
In
to be able
in
to.
order to get more.
Right. Well, like for my son, we started this, and I think on the last episode I mentioned the math AI system we're doing, which I want to try to reach out to somebody from there because I think it's a fantastic system. But it's synthesis tutor. It's an AI tutor. My son just adores it. And
Nice.
I think I've talked about how horrible math is with trying to teach him. I mean,
He said he's a bad Asian.
Yes. Well, on top of that, just trying to get him to focus to try to do stuff. Right. That's kind of like torture for me. So this AI system, and Grok even brought up finding apps and things to help with educational things. So like this synthesis, it's a great thing. It's at least from what we're doing already on it. And I mean, I've come to, before I was like, when I started homeschooling, it's like, okay, only X amount of time for screen time for anything. And then I'm like, that's crap. That is, and hear me out, because I know we've said too much screen time is bad, but I think what it comes down to is, you think about it. You have television screens where a lot of kids will sit there and watch television screens that are just stupid cartoons.
That's brain dead. It's like doom scrolling. It's just brain dead watching it.
Right. But like,
and not actually interacting, touching the screen, choosing an answer between these two. You're not doing anything. You're just sitting there.
Right. So, exactly. Yeah. But see, like my wife and I both, whenever we're on our tablets or phone, we're normally looking at, like I'm doing research and trying to do studies for two different things. I'm trying to learn how to write websites better, and I'm trying to get my certification for the designing program I use. So with both of those, it's like, okay, so my kids will see me using it for educational purposes. They don't see me watching stupid videos. Well, occasionally they do, but I mean, they don't get me to watching videos going, what's that? I'm like, oh, criminy, no.
You're like, ooh, does she have an OnlyFans?
Yeah. So
like, no, she doesn't. Stop.
Yeah, so with my kids, we watch shows that have some sort of educational value 90% of the time. There are those shows that I'm like, you know what? They can watch something for fun. It's perfectly fine. But even like Tuttle Twins. My kids will watch Tuttle Twins, and my son loves it. My daughter loves it because of the characters and all this. She doesn't comprehend the storylines and such yet. She's 3 years old. My son, on the other hand, he'll watch it and go, do we need to worry about the inflation monster? How do we fight the government? I'm like, my son.
You're like,
yeah.
Here you go, son.
Yeah, no, not yet. Let him get a little bit older. But yeah, it's just figuring out.
My gun right here.
Once he gets old enough, I will be teaching him how to shoot. That's not a problem.
This is the slide. It's the clip. Put this in, hit this button, and it sends the slide forward with one round.
Right. Those are things he will learn as he gets older. And so will my daughter. So
Yeah.
But I mean, it's finding a good hack isn't really that
Hmm.
hard. I mean, it could be something to me. It like I one thing that's always stuck in my head is I use a program called AnyList. You know,
Hmm.
obviously I'm big into tech. I'm
Right.
really a IT type of person, especially with what I do. I have to understand computers.
Right.
And even when I lived in Columbus, Ohio for about a decade or so, I ran a IT repair before there
Mhm.
was really a big thing on it for people and
Right.
individuals and companies and things like that. So, yeah, to me, if you can use technology properly, then there's some
Right.
use to it. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's it's that whole thing of figuring out the right way of doing it, this and that. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
like for me, like like I was saying, that app called AnyList. And I always
Hmm.
suggest it to everybody because I think it's a great app. And it's
Right.
probably one of the few apps that I paid for, did the paid version of it. And I kid you not, I have recipes stored that I can import. And
Nice.
my favorite thing is like we have a bread machine. So I have recipes for bread and I tweak the recipes and all this. Crock pots, casseroles.
Pancakes.
I actually do have a old fashioned
Hmm.
pancake recipe. I
Yeah.
have, I mean, I have like different things, even breakfast pizza, which is,
Yeah.
oh, that's good. But
There's a pancake that this place up the road from here makes. The it's like a pro police, the what is it, the thin blue line. They're pro
yeah,
police restaurant.
okay.
Um, it's called First Watch. They're like a large portion of their proceeds go to police communities and all that stuff. They're pretty good. I like them. They're for the most part like a just an upscale IHOP. I mean, mostly breakfast, some lunch. I'm not sure about dinner. Haven't been for dinner, but I've gone for breakfast.
All
They have
right.
a pancake. I mean, it's very big, but it's made out of it's ricotta and lemon. So like ricotta cheese and lemon. And I was like, that's weird. Who makes
Yeah,
pancakes out of ricotta cheese? That's not a sweet. You
right.
know what I mean? But then I think back and I remember my grandma would use ricotta cheese for everything. Like, you know how some people use cream cheese for like your toast or bagels and stuff. And it's not really
Right.
a sweet flavor. But then if you take cream cheese and add fruit and this and that to it, and you can make, cream cheese a very sweet style flavor. Ricotta is very versatile, exactly the same. It's almost a no flavored style cheese where you can take it in every direction. So I
Hmm.
tried it and I was like, man, it's like fluffy and delicious and a very hint of lemon, and the ricotta cheese has like a weird texture, but it's like delightful. So I got to learn how to make that. I have
Yeah,
no idea how to do
yeah,
it.
that's interesting, but it's like kind of like we grow mint and part of it's to keep certain
Hmm.
animals away and such like this. So,
Yeah.
but like I'll make mint wine and mint tea because it's supposed to help with your stomach and all
Right.
this because for me when my sinuses get killing me, I'll
Hmm.
take some mint that I grew because mint just spreads. So
Yeah.
the nice thing about that is when you mow around the mint and it's out past where it's supposed to be,
It's a smell.
you have a nice little
Yeah.
smell and you're like, ah, this is pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a bunch of basil plants. So I bought like one basil plant like 4 years ago, and ever since I can't get rid of it out of my yard. It's just like it's everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean I don't mind. It's awesome. So what I mean?
Yeah.
It smells delicious, and I go out and snip it all the time. You know what I mean? And take it and put it in sauce and whatever else. And I get bushels of it, like massive. So I'll go out there and clip it and throw it in something. I've dried it out and made dried basil. I have bags. Like we'll never have to buy the little seasoning basil ever again. Like ever.
Right.
So I just so much of it. And oddly, I use my mic here. I kind of go out there and like and I do that all the time because it's good. It smells good. It's wonderful. Is it not wonderful? I mean,
See, I enjoy the mint, so I understand where you're coming from. I can't go with the basil, but
you've done that to the mint before?
Oh, I'll go out and pick the mints
Yeah.
right off the stem and pop them in my mouth.
Right.
And
Yeah.
every place I've lived, I've always had some mint just because, like I
Hmm.
said, it's great for stomachs. It's
Yeah.
real calming. Like I have a mixture of green tea and mint. So
Yeah.
when I'm done with my coffee for the day, because I've cut back to only one of these things here, one of the, I think it's
Yeah.
20 or 24 ounces.
Hmm.
And I'll do one of those a day of coffee. And after that, I'm like, okay,
Right.
either water or tea.
Yeah.
And
That's what I do. I do 1 cup of coffee a day. Because I used to drink like pot and a half every
yeah.
day.
Oh, I was too. And I mean, I was literally like
Yeah.
shaking and,
Pissing every 5 minutes and shaking all the time. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Take 40 poops first thing in the morning. Yeah.
I'm not, what a wonderful descriptor.
Fair enough, but yeah. But I
Eh,
do. I also do that to my, I to my daughter's head. So I call it doing the Joe Biden. Grab her by the head.
oh, I was going to say, I hope you elaborated on that.
Yeah, that was a joke, just by the way. It's funny.
Well, we were just talking about pooping. Then you say, I also do that on my daughter's head. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. So
I'm like,
yeah,
what kind of weird stuff are you doing? That's just funny.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to get back towards the dad hacks and all this, but yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, there's a lot, just like we were talking before
Yeah.
about, there's all these people doing social media and such, and just to
Mhm.
actually do it, you have to really s- drop everything and spend all your time focusing on that.
Yeah.
And, the fact is, and as we both agreed, we're not giving up our families to become social media influencers.
All right.
Where if people find us and they enjoy us and they listen to us, fantastic. But
Right.
overall, it's more we're doing this to try to get out a message. And,
Right.
it would be kind of contradictory of us to put our family second to try to do social media. But
Right.
one thing we did mention is we have with life, with the show, with just the simple
Mhm.
things that we're doing with full-time work and our other projects.
Right.
Like you're working on the nonprofit. I'm working
Yeah.
on my children's book, and
Yeah.
maybe one of these decades I'll get my memoir done. The
I
longer
mean,
I
getting the
take,
message out is part of the reason for the nonprofit.
right,
So the nonprofit in a weird way can work on its own without me. So I can
right,
only do so much, right? You can only do so much. But I mean, it's similar to like a company doing franchises. People come in and buy a franchise, and then next thing you know, there's 4,792 McDonald's all over the United States, right?
right,
So you look at versions, and a lot of the model that I'm trying to review more is Turning Point USA. They're great. Their
hmm,
model is very great. They chapter all over the country, and that's one of the biggest ways. I mean, if I take American Liberty Foundation and I get people on board with what I'm looking at, and say they chapter in Minnesota, and
right,
then someone sees a chapter in Minnesota and they make 4 chapters in different universities or high schools or wherever they want to do them in Minnesota, and then somebody in North Carolina sees it and does that, and it just spreads more chapters and more chapters and more chapters. And one of the reasons why I chose the nonprofit is because I can't express to people how much I don't give two what's about $1. I
right.
don't. You know what I mean? It's all about the information. It's all about getting out the idea, changing society as a whole. And I'm not going to change it by myself. I'm gonna
No,
try, but I'm one guy. You know
right. Well, we
what
can
I mean?
talk
So,
yeah, we can talk as much as we want, and
right.
we might change. And here's where change kind of comes in, and if we don't talk, like there's several different dad podcasts out there, and
Yeah,
in
there's
all
ones that
truth,
are way bigger than ours too. So,
oh yeah,
but yeah,
but here's the thing: is like some of them you follow. Like there's quite a few dad podcasts that I started following where they had a lot of great episodes. things that focused on dads and what so have you, then all of a sudden just started focusing on other things inside. So it'd be like, we're now talking about sports as well as being a dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's great and all, but I'm not listening to hear you talk about your favorite teams or your fantasy football picks. So, I mean, for me, it's focusing on sticking with basically getting what we believe, get people on that believe something, and share informations to make people's lives easier for being families, make it better, finding that tool that makes it work better. Like you're, and this is going back to the dad hack, but like, I think it was, you've mentioned it a couple times throughout since we've been doing this, where you do like a gorilla ooey ooey or something.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Ooh, that's right. Ooh.
Yeah.
And the last time we talked, you mentioned about how you use that to calm down your daughter when she's really emotional and going way out there and what so have you. And like something like that. That's a perfect example of a dad hack, a way to make, because forgive me, I'm not going to be a gorilla, but I do tickle fish. You know, with my son, I started with my son, tickle fish. I do it with my daughter. When they're angry, I'm like, you need to smile or the tickle fish are going to get you. And they'll be upset for a little bit, but it's one of those things that finding those little tricks that can make life easier.
What works, right?
Yeah. And that's...
It matches your personality, matches theirs. What do they respond to? You know, and that part of finding a good dad hack is failing like 50 times. You're gonna screw up 50 times, then one thing's gonna hit and you're like, yes. So you just do that 10,000 times.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Because if you're not paying attention to your kid, if you're doom scrolling or looking at videos of the girls wearing bikinis or whatever and thinking, ooh, yeah, it's nice to look at just like a fancy car, but it's not going to change your life. You're not going to go running after it and throw everything away to get it. But ignoring your family, ignoring your kids will basically affect your life. And
I mean, that's a marriage hack in itself. You know what I mean? Just if you're having issues, you know, that's a big dad hack, is being a dad and is partly being good for your marriage. You know, so if you're focused on your phone, looking at boobs and nonsense all the time, maybe you go to work and you scroll some of the old, porno, watching the old dirty movies and stuff and cranking them out at work. What do you think's going to happen when you go and your wife's like, hey, or you're like, hey, doesn't operate properly. Not to mention there's nothing science saying it, but I feel as though it's true. You know what I mean? So it's kind of an odd thing, but women, they just know. It's almost like they can sense and feel your hormones and testosterone levels and so on and so forth in your body and mind.
There is a science to it.
They can sense it. So they can sense it.
What it is
if you're cranking them out all the time and your juice is not in your body and your testosterone levels are lower, probably because of that. Not to mention your mind is kind of, because you produce that extra hormone in your mind just by looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Women, their bodies sense it.
Right.
I mean, so
it's it's something like, and it's been many, many years since I've read this, so bear with me on it. If I get some of it wrong, or if I get some of the terms wrong, but generally what it comes down to is if you're connected to your wife. So like part of it, if you're just touching your wife, if you just hold her hand, if you do little things, it creates that bond and there's a chemical reaction that your body picks up. Plus the distance between each other being close to each other like that, you pick up a scent, a pheromone from her, and she picks up your hormones and all this. You're both sharing your scents to do, because what you bring into your body will affect how your body thinks and all this. So it's very easy to sit there and there was a story that I heard, and I think it was a I can't think of what it's called now, but not a metaphor, or an analogy or something. Analogy, yeah. Maybe that's what I'm thinking, but it was this married couple with kids, and they meet at a diner and they're discussing, okay, let's get a divorce. And she goes, okay, I'll grant you your divorce, but only on one condition. And he says, okay, well, tell me what it is. She said, every day when you come home, you pick me up and you carry me across the floor, and at night you pick me up and you just carry me into the bedroom. Right. Nothing else. And he says, fine. He says, fine. Okay, I'll do that. So the first day he does it, it's real awkward, and they're both kind of like, then the first week is over and the son is sitting there going, yeah, daddy's carrying mommy. And then it continues on. And the deal was for 6 months that he had to do this. And after 6 months, they patched up the relationship. They built a closer bond than they ever had. The kid was more excited to see his parents together and all this. And I think the point of the story originally is making steps to improve your family starts off with the first step. But what to me,
something small.
Yeah, but what it comes more to me, like, I've always called my wife my love. There's a old podcast I used to listen to that made me laugh, and this is where I picked it up, where the husband would always say, whatever the lady's name is, my love, and it became a joke, right? But I took that and I thought, if I always call my wife my love, and I say it in just as it's her real name, like there's no question about it. Even if I'm upset, yes, my love. I might be saying it grudgingly, but still, my love. It's in my head. It never leaves me. I never question it, etc., etc. And it's that, like I always say, if in the morning you wake up and you talk to somebody and they say, well, how's your day going? I'm alive and kicking. What more can I ask for? You get that mindset. And with that mindset, you can do a lot of amazing things. You might not climb the company ladder. You might not have the perfect marriage, but the fact is you can have a bit of a better life by being a little bit happier. Because what is it? You see a lot of people that have basically almost nothing. They're struggling for bills, and they're still a happy family.
Still happy, yeah.
Yeah. Then you see people. Then you see people with tons of money and all this stuff, and they're just miserable. They're angry people. So
it's not always about the money. Yeah. Now, there is an argument for whether money can make you happy or not.
Right.
I can tell you, a really big, like, Ford F-350, like 6.7 diesel on big, like, dump truck rims and stuff with big 2 smokestacks, with also like a trailer. That trailer's a Lamborghini, an orange one. I can say I'd be pretty happy. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah.
It would make your day a little bit better. There's no doubt of that. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Having financial stability is definitely a good thing. Don't get me wrong saying, because my wife and I, we've developed and grew and worked hard to have this stability that we have, to where we still worry about bills, but not, oh
Not like,
no,
oh my goodness, yeah.
if one of us loses
Right.
our job, we're SOL. It's more, okay, we have a window to find a new job. We have to change
Right.
things, et cetera, et cetera. It's not,
You have to adjust lifestyle slightly to
yeah,
get back in. Yeah, right.
but
And those things are awesome. You know what I mean? But I mean, are they worth for me? Like I can't have those things right now today.
right,
In order for me to get those things, I would have to sacrifice pretty much my family. I would have
right,
to climb the corporate ladder or hunker down on the social media stuff and learn all this stuff and become some social media blah blah, get $1 million or whatever the case is to get all that money. So by doing that, I would have to destroy the sanctity of my home, which to me isn't worth it. Not
right,
at all. I would rather make less money, work less hours, and spend more time with my family, because happiness for me definitely comes from shooting a machine gun out of a helicopter. That's awesome. But it is way happier for me to give my daughter and my wife a hug at the exact same time. Like, hug both of them at the same time is one of my favorite things to do. So,
We'll see. Like you and I have different routes of how we handle our marriages. You have your wife as a stay-at-home wife, where,
not on purpose. It's kind of her idea. Right.
right, I
She
understand.
wants to, and I don't argue with her.
Exactly, but it's something you and your family decided to do, and then you went forward with it.
Mhm.
Me, I grew up seeing my stepmother, and she was a stay-at-home wife, and literally, to me, it was a joke. It would
Mhm.
be because if you were not doing anything productive, and all you're doing is going and having coffee with people or sitting around watching TV, or basically acting
Mhm.
like you're living a retired life without achieving anything. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
If you're staying home, cleaning the house and having dinner ready and finding ways to improve life in the family,
in the home.
yeah, and you're
That's the
taking
purpose of the
a stay at
stay-at-home
home,
wife.
yes,
That's
but
ultimately the goal.
right. But if you're just eating candy or junk food or whatever it is, and
Chilling on bonbons.
yeah, exactly. Then, but see, that's kind of what I grew up seeing as a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah,
or not even stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home wife, because
right.
I was my stepmom definitely didn't do any mothering, and it was kind of a joke to me.
Yeah,
So
right.
she was more worried about trying to be our friends, like
Hmm.
my friend and my friend's friend, and it was
Yeah,
like we all made fun of her and blah blah blah, and none of us had respect for her because she didn't do anything productive.
shouldn't do it. Right.
Right.
Yeah. See, my wife is extremely productive. Our house is always a wreck, but that's not due to her cleaning.
Right.
Like, she will start over here and she will clean. By the time she gets here, it's already started becoming a mess again over here. And
Because
it's
of
just
your
bad.
kid.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how does she do that? She's like a freaking tornado. Like, it's like, man, we'll clean the whole house and be like,
Yeah.
that looks wonderful. Look at that.
And when you turn around,
What
yeah.
the? Yeah. What the? How did that
Yeah.
happen? And my daughter's over there with a big thing upside down, like dumping all of her Legos out. And I'm like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
then, but at some point, it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. That's what she's a kid. That's what she's supposed to do.
But
I
see,
mean, you can't get mad at her for that stuff. That's what
that's
she's
the thing.
supposed to do. So,
For
yeah.
you, your family structure, your wife is working, your wife is doing stuff.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
productive world. So
Yeah.
like, because of what I saw, my wife works. I work from home. So,
Hmm.
and because of that, I have a very flexible schedule as long as I'm meeting deadlines, calls, all this stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
And what I'll do is I find it helpful. As soon as my kids go to sleep, I come downstairs, I work, I can get focused on certain things to where I can have, so like I have the flexibility for you and I to talk. I have the flexibility to homeschool, find out what works with my son and all this stuff. And with my wife working with a 2-income family, we have that flexibility, but we also try to build something to pass on to our kids. And that's kind of our goals, kind of what we set up as our future desires. And I even told my wife when we got married, I said, when it gets closer to retiring, if we have the money and you want to retire early, that's fine. But I really don't want a stay-at-home wife. To me, that, and I know lots of people, you have to have the traditional marriage, wife at home, wife doing this. My wife would go nuts and be a pain in the neck if she was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And it's just how it is. But I mean, she would adjust if she chose to do that, but she would adjust whatever. But her and I are both very driven. That's why we're constantly trying to learn stuff, trying to do stuff. It's like we're always trying to find ways to do stuff better. It's like Saturday night, I prep the powder and the liquids in 2 different containers for our Sunday morning pancakes. So all I have to do is have the griddle out, throw the liquid into a bowl, throw the powder into a bowl, and mix them and slap them on the griddle, and away we go. Another hack: pre-mix your pancakes
the day before. Yeah. If you put speaking of those pancake hacks, one of them is if you're going to use like the box batter, like the store-bought box stuff, which is fine, it's for your kids, it's pancakes, come on, when you mix it, if you let it sit for 30 minutes before you take it and pour it on the griddle, it's fluffier.
See,
but if you do it the day before, put it in the fridge, it does the same concept, just it takes all night because it's in the fridge.
See, no, I don't mix them together. Like I'll have like, those plastic cylinder soup containers you get from the Chinese store? Yeah. Like, or not Chinese store, but when you order Chinese takeout or something.
Right.
So we'll keep those little containers. We have a ton of them. And I'll put like all the powder in one container, set it on the counter, and then I'll put the milk, the eggs, the vanilla extract, and whip it all together, put the container in the fridge, and in the morning I pour the powder in the bowl, then I'll pour in the liquid and mix it together. But
nice.
I never heard about letting it sit for 30 minutes, but see, here's the thing is, like, I used to buy like the mix, the pancake mix, and I kept sitting going, it says what's in there, but sometimes you're kind of like, I'm like,
it's not as good, but as homemade pancakes. It does the job, but it's not as good.
But see, here's the simple thing. Here's all a simple pancake is. And I don't know if you add more stuff too. You can add your own ingredients, but you have a cup and a half of flour or 2 cups, depending on how big of a batch you're doing. An egg to 2 eggs, a cup and a quarter of milk, maybe a pinch or so of salt, a little bit of sugar. I'll switch it up between white sugar and brown sugar, and then baking powder. Yeah, baking powder.
Baking powder, yeah. Just like a little pinch of that,
yeah. And then any flavor you want. That helps
with the rising and the fluffy.
Yeah. So other than that, you add any other flavoring you want and you're good to go. I mean, literally, if you have sugar, salt, and flour and eggs and milk in your house, you have everything. Good. I mean, you can do it without the baking powder, but like you said, it helps raise it, give it a little more
fluffy. Yeah. But the letting it sit concept. So you ever make pancakes at home and you're like, it did everything just like a restaurant, handmade it, and you're like, why is it not the same as a restaurant? I don't understand. I mean, you can do everything you want. One of the reasons why is because a lot of that stuff they make like way, way earlier. They don't
Hmm.
make it right now and then make your pancake. They make it like either hours or the day prior, and it goes in the fridge and it sits for hours on end.
Oh yeah.
When it sits there, it just basically ferments and it fills with air. It rises. And if it's overnight, it's in the cooler. Being in the fridge, it does it a lot slower,
Right.
but it does rise and unrise and rise again and unrise, because it's all night long. If you're gonna do it in the daytime, first thing in the morning, make your pancake batter like 30 minutes prior to actually making the pancakes. Just make everything and mix it all together and just let it sit on the counter for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Just let it
Hmm.
sit there. You'll see it'll be all like weird and fluffy. And as you go to use it, you almost like start popping all the bubbles in it. But once it goes on the griddle, you'll notice it'll be a little bit fluffier, and the when you take the bite, it's almost like looser and more like a restaurant.
I might have to give that a try. I've
Hmm.
never even heard of that.
Yeah,
So
just let it sit for a little bit. You do it with store bought stuff too. If you go and buy like Bisquick or whatever, which Bisquick is terrible, by the way.
right.
There's other ones that I like. Like I like Aldi brand, um, and I stand by this every day of the week, forever and ever and ever. The Walmart brand. I forget what's the Walmart brand that they have. The
Uh,
food brand. Great
Sam's or
value
Great Value.
is
That's what it
great
is.
value. Yeah, great value pancake mix is good. It's the best. It's one of the best out there. Great
All right.
value and Aldi brand. Uh, can't tell you why, but it is. It is. So if you happen to use those, do the same concept. Make the batter, let it sit for 20 minutes, let it rise, kind of feel, and then put it on your griddle or pan or whatever you
Right.
go outside and put it on a grill, and don't put anything in between. That way, it just goes through.
So let's do this. Let's skip past food because
Yeah, sorry.
I'll tell you what. We'll plan out for a cooking episode sometime, and maybe I'll
Yeah,
find a chef that wants to come on and talk about ways to
yeah, that'd
cook
be cool.
for. Yeah, but
Hmm.
I have a few
We
chefs
do
I
need to
know.
talk about some more dad hacks, though.
Oh, that's what I was
I
going to
had a
get at.
couple.
Well, let's
Yeah.
hear them.
Okay. I had a couple ideas. So things that I was talking about. So one was the ooh thing.
Right.
I mean, I can go in more in depth with that. That was, I think we were talking about the other day. So my daughter sometimes, and solely due to my fault and my wife's fault,
Right.
our behavior. You know, um, but sometimes she would, instead of understanding something and being like, I don't like this or whatever, she would just be like, sling it and be like, I gotta, instead of just saying, I don't want this, she'd get mad. So, and then part of the stuff, and she would have like emotional fits, and she'd be screaming, and it would go on and on and on for 15, 20 minutes. And for the longest time, one of the things that I did that was a problem was, stop that, get in our room, time out,
Mm-hmm.
you keep that up, I'm gonna whoop that butt, whatever the case was. Um, and I did that for a long time. It never really worked. Oddly, my daughter is very, what do you call it? Resilient to that stuff. She doesn't put up with authority very well.
Right.
Sorry, she's got my DNA, but she doesn't like authority. So one of the best ways that I learned to deal with it, I started implementing which has been something for a long time. It just, I didn't implement it in that specific scenarios, right? So
Right.
was something that me and her used to play all the time because she watched Bluey, and Bluey, in the show they do the character. It's when the dad acts like a monkey, and Bingo acts like the baby character, whatever, and they play Well, so I've always been, me being larger and hairy and ugly, and I have kind of a belly and stuff like that. She used to call me a gorilla, not necessarily
Right.
and I used to always, get on my fist and do one of these and stuff like that, and do this, and eventually it just kind of, after Bluey, it turned into So whenever she would get mad, um, and start throwing those fits, I decided to implement that. So that was kind of my dad hack. I implemented what our playtime, which she associated with good and fun and love, into her anger, and I would talk to her in the ooh ooh voice. Dad, I love you, or ooh ooh, love you, ooh ooh, want hug, ooh ooh, says no, scream, like that, and it works. She calms down. She's like, and at first she's like, not now, ooh ooh. So when she responds
Mm-hmm.
to me as ooh ooh, she's clearly wanting to play. You know what I
Right.
mean? If she responds, Dad, no, then she's not in the mood for it. You know what I mean? So, and I can recognize those two. But if I go, ooh ooh doesn't want you, no mads, no mads. Ooh ooh says no mads. Give me hug. Ooh ooh hugs. Ooh ooh hugs. And she'll be like, not now. Ooh ooh. I'm like, oh, so that alerts me to the idea that okay, I can keep doing it, and eventually she'll come out of it. It'll take a minute or two, but she'll want to play. And then I can go play with her and then put her back in front of dinner and say, all right, come on, let's eat now. And
Right.
it works. So I guess the hack is try to find something to associate a positive behavior, such as playing or love or hugs or something funny, goofy, one of her cartoon characters that she loves, and implement that into her
Mm-hmm.
negative behavior. So if she's mad, let her know that it's okay to be mad. It's not okay to throw fits and sling things and hurt things. So let's calm down and use this to help with that. So that was one of them. Um, some of the other ones I did want to shortly discuss are
Right.
um, and I'm not trying to I don't ever try to Bible thump or be like, oh, Bible, biblical Christianity,
Right.
you must trust in God, say Christ is Lord. Yeah, no, I don't do that stuff.
Right.
What was that guy's name? What's that actor's name? uh
Oh, it was the
yeah,
I can't remember now. LaBouche or
yeah. LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf.
LaBeouf.
There's it. There it is.
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. Say Christ is Lord. But yeah, so I don't try to do that. But looking at some of the behaviors of biblical and Christian parenting. So, I guess one of the best dad hacks in the world is, don't spare the rod, right? In the Bible times, right?
Right.
Um, Spanking, right? So the goal, a lot of people think, oh, it's telling you to whoop your kid's ass all the time. You ought to be like, "Wah, wah." No, it's not telling you to do that.
Right.
If you even read the Bible, it tells you in an appropriate manner, at an appropriation with age or whatever. It even says those words in black and white. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it does say, do not spare. So if your kid does have these negative behaviors, um, it does say to spank and use that as a tool, as a corrective action, but it doesn't explain it. Maybe it does need to read a little bit more. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand is, I mean, your kid shouldn't be 10 years old and you're whooping its ass.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense, right? Because for the most part, your kid's going to defy you even more at 10 years old.
Right.
It's in it. It also isn't saying when your kid is 6 months old, beat the living piss out of it.
Yeah. You have to
Six
use
months old
reason.
like, and crying, and it's basically a vegetable at some point. You know what I mean? So the idea is in the appropriate manner. So two, even a very young three, those are even. I mean, some even if your kid is you can tell if your kid is capable or understanding at like a year and a half. Even
Yeah.
a simple spanking for disciplinary actions it is appropriate. And the reason being is because the idea is if you spank your kid 2 or 3 times when they're 2 years old, by the time they're 11, you won't have to spank your kid 900 times to get them to listen. You know what I
Well,
mean? Or you
yeah.
can do I don't want to spank at all, and then your kid ends up in jail. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it is never understood authority or responsibility or accountability. At some point, if you teach your kid accountability at a very young age, then it won't need to deal with that when it's much older.
Right. So
Yeah.
with one thing like for I've noticed is where like my son, he's 7 years old. He's past the spanking age. So
Right.
with
Yeah.
him, I've told him even when he was still younger, you're getting spanked because of the consequences of your action. So
Right.
now I'm sitting there going, you make this decision. If you want to do this, be aware that there's a positive consequence and there's a negative consequence. Everything you do, you have to weigh the consequences. So if you're going to disobey me and climb a tree that I told you it's not safe for, and you do it when I'm not looking, if you fall and get hurt, that is a consequence of your actions.
Right.
And he understands some consequences are painful. Now, mind you,
Yeah.
now I think I gave him a whack on the butt. He did something, I forget what it was. And even when I've spanked my kids, I've never spanked them to where it's going to hurt them. I've
Right.
never done it in the sense of it's meant to be painful. I've always done it's
Right.
meant to be more of a shock, meant more to
Yeah,
be
it's more of a, huh. Yeah.
exactly. And my son turned around and goes, "That didn't hurt." And now, mind you, he's a boy. He's going to be rebellious, and he can withstand a whole lot more. And I looked at him. I said, "Do you want me to spank you to hurt you, or do you understand why I did it?" He goes, "Well, I understand. You don't have to spank me to hurt me." I'm like, "I don't want to." I said, "Just understand the purpose behind it." He goes, "Okay."
Yeah.
And
that's a goal that a lot of people don't. A lot of these gentle
General
parenting
parenting.
people, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they. If anybody that listens to us ever or is soon to be parents or newly parents, and you're listening and you have considered gentle parenting, I encourage you to go look at a lot of their stuff, their content, because the first thing that they do, oh, physical abuse, you monster, you're beating your children.
They have
And
to do
that's
an
never
emotional
actually
response.
right. That's never actually been the case. So essentially, I mean, you could see it in their behavior. Their behavior is so over intense and overly emotional. Is that what you want your child to be like when they're older? Do you want them to be mentally unstable and so overly emotional that they can't hold down relationships with the average person? Or would you like them to hold accountability for their actions, understand that there are consequences, and make sound decisions? And that doesn't happen when they're 15 years old, because in order for you to get them to physically stop doing that, you're going to need to physically overpower them. But if they're 2, you don't need to, whoop. You don't need to do that. All you need is a, hey.
Yeah.
And it's over with. You know what I mean? It's not about the physical pain, because there is no physical pain. Because for the most part, you just gave them a little pep. It's all about the stern kind of, what did I say? And that emotional response, that connection to, oh, dad said no. I love my dad. That makes them go, oh, but it's in combination with a little bit of a, so, and that's what causes them to. And then, like I said, you only had to do it once. You didn't have to do it 45 times when they were 12. So.
Exactly. Well, you give them a quick whack when they're younger, and they start learning, hey, now mind you, the older they're going to get, the more likely they're going to try to rebel, and it's a kid's thing. They're going to do something to try to see what they can get away with. There's no question about that.
Right.
But it's one of these things, like going back to using food as a scenario. If you put the work in, and like what I do, I put my powders together and I put my liquids together and I get them all ready, and I put the work in so that come in the morning when I'm ready to feed my family and all this, I can put it together quickly. It only saves a little bit of time in theory, but like my son, we do online math class that we're about ready to finish it up, and I don't think we're going to continue it, but we do online classes where he gets with a cohort and does this. So I have to get my kids down and get them around, get the pancakes going, get everything done within a short
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So
So it's helpful.
yeah, so but
Yeah.
the thought is I have all this work I know that needs to be done. I
Right.
know that these are my goals so that I can achieve everything to be done by the time he starts his class. Like when it's a
Mm.
certain point in his life, for an example, if you pre-mix the powders and pre-mix the liquids, put
Mm.
out the griddle, put out the spatula, get everything ready so that all you have to do is throw it in, whip it together real quick. And if you don't have time to let it sit for half an hour, then that's fine.
Yeah.
You can just throw it right on the griddle because as you're mixing it
Mhm.
up, you can turn the griddle up, get it to temp,
Yeah.
and
Get
then
it
do your
going.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My thought behind that is, and the reason I'm using that as a metaphor is that if you're putting the effort in at the beginning, if you're figuring out,
Mhm.
okay, let's teach my child to be this way. So as they get older, they can think, they can do stuff, and they can manage their emotions and not
Mhm.
think the world owes them everything, and
Yeah.
understand there's consequences with every one of your when every decision you make, there's a consequence, good or
Yeah.
bad. And I
These are
think
the
that
best dad hacks ever.
yes,
Ensuring
exactly
ensuring your kid is good when they're young. They'll have
right.
a lot less problems when they're older.
Right. Well, it's a lot
Mm.
harder to correct the issues the older they get. I mean,
Mhm.
you can do it, but it takes
Right.
longer. There's always going to be emotional scars left behind. There's
Right.
going to be all sorts of things you're going to have to deal with. There's no question of that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like setting up a morning ritual.
Right.
You follow that ritual, you create some sort of structure, even if it's kind of more of a playful structure. But we wake up,
Right.
we do this, we get breakfast, we start our schoolwork, we then clean up the area, we finish our schoolwork, then you go and do X, Y, and Z, and whatever it is.
Mhm.
You set up that structure to understand. The problem is people sit there and go, well, once my kid rebels against that structure, doesn't want it.
Mhm.
No, I refuse this, I refuse that.
Right.
And what it is you have people that they're so afraid that they're going to have the same experience they grew up with. And here's my thought is my mom, when I've done stuff where I fully, don't get me wrong, I fully deserved when my mom whooped my ass in front of a police station and the
Yeah.
police looked out and watched
Yeah.
and probably grinned and says, good on you, and closed the blinds. My best friend at the time even looked out with the cops and they watched my mom just hit me to the ground. And don't get me wrong, my mom's never really done anything. I think that's probably one of two times that I can say my mom's ever physically
Mhm.
put, and it wasn't that she was hurting me that I remember, but it was more one,
Right.
I was raised never to hit a woman. So I knew there was nothing I could do back to her.
Right.
And with her being my mom, there's nothing I would be willing to do back to her that would cause
Right.
her harm. So all I could do is try to protect myself. And literally, I dropped to the ground. I was an early teen or something like that. So
Mhm.
the likelihood is I probably was having tears of my mom's whooping my ass in front of the
Mhm.
police, in front of my buddy, and
More
all this.
embarrassment. Yeah.
Right. But if you're
Right.
catching the key there is the
Mhm.
police was involved. So there is definitely a reason. So my mom was in the right. But like my mom would
Right.
give me soap and make me eat soap when I cursed, right?
Yeah.
There was times she's held me down on the kitchen floor and made me eat it.
Mhm. Right.
That taught me a whole lot. I've
Mhm.
never been a big person on cursing growing up after I left my mom's house. I
Yeah.
I would curse when I would get around people, and but I was never
Mhm.
as big as some of the people was around with the cursing, you know?
Yeah. I always
And
curse like a sailor.
yeah, but that's the whole thing is depending on the discipline you have and the things you were taught. Like for
Mhm.
you, you might not have been a big person trying to curse when you were younger or in front of your parents, and
Yeah.
where me being young, dumb, and thinking I could get away with it, I was tough. I was hard. I was a young kid that could rule the world. My mom set me correct.
Yeah.
Because of what my mom did, because of the interactions I've had with my stepdad and the conversations, I learned what not to do, in the sense of I cannot be a jerk. I cannot be going out
Right.
and creating havoc and expecting no consequences to happen.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like you said, it's the biggest dad hack of it all.
Yeah.
Put up in front, set
Yeah.
everything up, and then address it so that on the back end you actually enjoy your time with the kids, because
Yeah, as they get much older. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Because look at me. I mean, I don't talk to my mom is, I mean, long gone. She's probably in jail. She's in jail somewhere. I mean, my dad, I mean, he's there, but I mean, we don't have much of a relationship.
Right.
We don't talk that often. I mean, a majority of the issues with my dad weren't his issue. It was with my mom. But I mean, a lot of that is behavioral issues on their part, and how they didn't raise us correctly. You know what I mean? So I mean, it makes sense. The more you focus and hunker down on the behavior when they're young, that behavior will continue as they get older. Because I mean, something as simple as like my daughter, when we first had her, for like the first 3 years, we didn't even turn the TV on. I don't even think we had a TV. We got rid of all the TVs in the house. We just no TV. Period. Just zero.
Right.
We knew we were going to have TV one day. But we buckled down and we just said no TV. And we read books, we colored, we did art projects, we played puzzles, whatever the case is. And now my daughter is like a bookworm. Like, she loves reading. She reads. She's 6 and she reads full size, like, not adult books, but adult size chapter books, like chapter books, and she reads them like multiple in a week.
Oh, geez.
Like, yeah. Like, I think the other day we went and we're like, you want to, I forget what it was, one of her fairy books. She has these fairy books. They're about this thick. They're several chapters. They're big books. If I were to read it, it would probably take me weeks. You know what I mean? It's a big book. It's not no like little kids like 3-minute read or 10-minute read or nothing. It's a long book. It's an adult size chapter book, but it's not an adult book. It's about fairies and stuff. It's a kid's book. Right. But it's probably meant for like teenagers to read. You know what I mean?
Right.
We were like, we were going to start a new one that night, and we're like, hey, you want to read, the fairy book? And she's like, I already did. We're like, what do you mean? She's like, I started reading like an hour ago. We're like, what do you mean? She's like, I read the whole book already. She had went into her room and was playing and did some stuff a couple hours earlier, and she was playing dolls, whatever. She got bored of dolls, so she grabbed her book. She just picked it up, started reading. She read the whole fucking thing in an hour.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. Like, I honestly, my son's big into reading as well, and the great thing about it is that, like you said, if I don't have the TV on, he doesn't have his schoolwork or doing research on a topic, then he'll just pick up a book. And his sister, seeing that, she'll grab a book her age, but like he's like you said, he's 7 now, and he's finished. What is it? I bought him a packet of Rendell books, I think it is, where it has the Fantastic Mr. Fox, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Glass Elevator, James and the Giant Peach, things like that. Yeah. Because all he was doing, weirdly enough, was reading nature textbooks. I kid you not. He was reading textbooks. And So he literally has one that was read so many times that the cover has broken off. So,
Yeah.
so I got him trying to read other things. And once I introduced those to him, now he's reading, he's going to the library, getting books that are like fourth, fifth grade level reading. And he technically is finishing first grade. So it shows you, if you
Right.
introduce them and teach them, hey, there's other
When
things.
they're young.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's one thing, is I've always had a high value on books.
Yeah.
And obviously with you having the Justice Frog book series, you do too.
Yeah.
So it goes to show
I'm a
that,
terrible reader, but I mean, not to my own fault. I try. Like today, I try to read, but because of how my family is, my reading like desire and abilities are like I have to fight it. I have to force myself to read. Whereas my daughter just loves doing it. She just loves reading, but that's because we started reading her when she was like brand new. Read to her every single day. She was reading books when she was like 1 and 2 years old on her own, and we just continued that, all the way up until today, and we will continue it forever. But for me, I mean, even my grandmother to this day, we get on the video calls with her,
mm-hmm,
um, and she's like, "How come she's not watching TV?" I'm like, "Because we're here
right.
having a conversation with you. Why would she be watching TV? Ah, let her watch TV. No, she needs to be sitting here having a conversation with you. She can watch TV later. Ah, you're so bad. That's all. We would just let you watch TV all day long, and it's all. Yeah, that's what they would do.
Right.
They would put us in front of the TV, and it was the electronic babysitter, and they would just let us sit there watch TV all day, every single day, any movie, any show, anything we ever wanted to watch. It was just watch TV all day long. You can, and she still believes, oh, you can get so much information from TV. That's how you learn. Like, you can, yeah, that you can, but
Yeah.
nothing it compares to a book.
No.
Nothing compares to what you learn from a book. And she just doesn't. She is so pro TV, and I'm like, it's because you just didn't want to do it. You just
Well,
wanted to plop me in front of a TV and call it a day. Yeah,
um,
and now I suffer from it.
mm,
I have trouble. I can read perfectly fine. I'm not illiterate. I just
right.
mentally have trouble reading. Like I read half a sentence and I'm like, oh, I gotta read the sentence again. Oh, I gotta read the sentence again. You know what I mean? So I gotta go back and back and back and read it 3 or 4 times before it finally sinks in. I'm like, move on to the next sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Trust me, I'm right there with you. And
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
it's kind of, and parents today still do this. And don't get me wrong, like when I get my kids home, we wrap everything
Mhm.
up, and then it's okay. Well, now I have to get the the dinner ready. Then I have to get them ready for their baths, because I found that, if I'm able to give them their baths, and this is where I love when I do crock pots or casseroles
Mhm.
or something where I can just let it sit, cook, and then come back, or like
Right.
homemade pizza. They're
Right.
simple, quick, so I can get home, give them their baths, and then get dinner either off the crock pot, out of the oven from the casserole, or whatever it is, and they're clean. So when it comes bedtime, it's a lot easier to get them to bed,
Mhm.
which is what it is. But it's a whole getting the structure around, where last night, like, I didn't have time to give them their bath first. So we
Mhm.
waited till 7:30 to start the bath process. And it was a pain in the neck, because they know at that time, after their bath, it's bed. So
Mhm.
I don't want a bath. No.
Drag.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things
Yeah.
that, but again, as soon as I got home, I had to get dinner going, because I didn't have anything preset, just
Mhm.
some marinated meat that my wife left me to cook, and some
Yeah.
leftovers and things like that. So I'll be honest, I turned on Bentkey and my kids watched a show called Dot,
Yeah.
which we've watched hundreds of times. So the great
Right.
thing about a show they've watched 100 times, it becomes background noise. They'll watch it, play, run
Mhm.
around, do stuff.
Mhm.
And how my house is set up, I can also watch them as I'm cooking and keep an eye on. Also, make sure whatever they're watching, it's not.
Right.
But let's do this.
So, yeah.
We've gone in for maybe about over an hour or something. Just we've gone a
Well,
couple different routes.
There's one quick one. I'll be quick about it.
All right,
One quick dad hack. And this is a dad hack that I failed to implement, and I want to share it because I do believe how important it is, because it works, and I know it works because it worked on me, and I know a lot of people that it has worked on with their kids, a lot of friends I've talked to with their children. So it's this exact hack. So you can choose the age. I recommend probably around 3 to 4 years old. This is when. So every kid, even you know this, every kid, when they go to dinners, they take forever to eat, and they're not going to eat, and I don't want to eat, and they're going to throw their food or not want to eat it, and it's going to be a problem, and everybody's sitting at the table for 3 hours, and the whole night's wasted, and it's a miserable night because this kid won't eat nothing, won't eat, complain and cry and whine. Set a. If this happens a few times, get a little timer, set it for 20 minutes. At the end of that 20 minutes, that's it. You're done. But you make sure you tell them this prior. Right. You have 20 minutes. Eat your food. If you do not eat your food, you go to bed hungry. And tomorrow morning, this meal, not a new one, I will not make you pancakes. You will eat exactly this dinner that I had you tonight, that I made you tonight. You will eat it tomorrow morning for breakfast. And if you don't eat it for breakfast, guess what you eat for dinner the next night? Because lunch, if they're gonna be at school. But if they're at home, lunch.
And it's lunch. Yep.
It's lunch. But if they're not at home, they're at school. Obviously, you have to skip that one. Dinner it is, and this is the meal you get until you eat it. Now, obviously, there's a barrier of rotten food after 2-3 days.
Well, hopefully they're eating before then.
Right. I can almost guarantee you breakfast time they will skip. They will argue with you. They will not believe you the first time. They might not believe you the second time, but they will definitely not believe you the first time. They will not finish their food, and they will argue and drag it out past the 20 minutes. So it is up to you to hold to your word, take their food away, put it in the refrigerator, and for breakfast, give it to them. And give them the same stipulation. 20 minutes. If you do not eat it, I take it away. And after 20 minutes for breakfast, if they do not eat it, take it away. In the fridge it goes, and for dinner they get it. And I can almost guarantee you by the time dinner or breakfast the next day comes around, they will eat it. And then it'll take probably 2-3 times before to do that cycle. And it'll sink in, and they'll start eating their food, I promise.
The funny thing about that is I've tried that with my daughter, right? And my wife, because of her background, all this, she's afraid of the kids going hungry. That's her big thing. Are they eating enough?
My wife too. Same thing.
So my daughter or my son would say, "Oh, well, I'm hungry," and they have a plate full of food. I'm like, "Well, eat your food." My wife go, "Well, what do you want to eat?" I'm like, "Nothing." They have food in front of them.
Yeah.
Have them eat that. And she, like my daughter would go, "I'm not going to eat. I'm waiting for mommy." And I look at her, mommy's not making any food. I would text my wife, "Do not make any food when you get home for our daughter. Right. And mind you, I say the name, but I don't want to put it out here, but you get what I'm saying. Right. The fact is my wife has stopped doing that so that when I tell my daughter, either eat what's in front of you or eat nothing. Mommy's not making you any more food. If you eat everything on your plate and you want mommy to make you something, if she's willing to do it, you can. But you have to eat everything on your plate. And that goes back to like what we said at the beginning. I cut the portions down so that they had, because for a while there I was saying, okay, give them all this. I don't want them to be hungry at night. The problem with that theory is they would just have so much left over and you'd expect them to eat it all. And it's like, they have smaller stomachs than me, obviously.
Smaller,
So you have to take into that consideration. But yeah, it's the whole teaching them to eat what's in front of them, like you're
So
saying.
the problem is the mother, you're saying? Yes, I agree. That's exactly the same reason why I never did it. I love my wife to death, and man, she is really, really good with our kid. I give her props all the time, and I praise her how well she is, and how
Right,
awesome she is of a mother. No doubt there. And
right,
just as though I am probably a problem with a lot of things that she tries to do or does, this is one thing that I know would work on her, on our daughter, and she just will not let me do it. But I told her, it's fine. You don't want me to do that? You don't want to do that way? Because it'll work. I promise. It'll fix the issue today. She won't
hmm
let me do it. So I told her, if you don't want to let me do it, if it's my turn to make dinner, because traditional mom, stay home, wife, kids, you got to cook, all of that. I like to cook, so I cook now
right,
and then. Probably a few times a week at least. So I like to, not because I'm a simp or anything, but I like to cook. It's fun.
right. Oh, I enjoy cooking. Don't get
So
me wrong.
right, so I cook for my wife and my family, and relieve that from her plate, at least several times a week. You know, and if I'm the one cooking and she's not eating it, if she wants something else, I don't give a crap.
Mm,
Your food's there. If you
yeah,
want something else, great. You better go beg your mom for it, because she's gonna get all pissed off and blah 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 blah. She'll make it for you, but she'll be all frustrated. So if my wife wants to deal with that and deal with that pain, she can deal with that pain. Have fun.
see,
I ain't dealing with it. I ain't cooking or nothing else.
I can honestly say I'm happy that my wife is now on board with me. So when I say don't
Mm,
give her extra food until she eats what's
yeah,
on her plate, my
right.
wife will work with her. Here, eat your food. Eat what's on your plate. No, you
Yeah,
cannot have this. Eat what's on your plate.
yeah,
So my wife at least understands she needs to learn to eat what's in front of her, appreciate it, and move on. Like, what
yeah.
was it? My kids, one day we just made tacos. We don't make tacos a whole lot. Oh, I don't like tacos. You haven't tried these tacos. Try the tacos, then make your choice. If you
Yeah,
don't like it, tell me. I understand we haven't made these in a long time. Oh, I don't like tacos. I said, you know
yeah,
what? Starve. Well, I'm like,
yeah. Don't
starve.
eat that. See? Mm,
All electronics are going to be shut off for the entire night. There's no background
mm,
noise, nothing. We'll sit in silence. You're
mm.
not allowed to grab a book. You're not allowed to do anything until the plate's empty or
Yep.
you go to bed. Sure enough, they eat it. They take a bite of it. Next thing you know, the plate's empty and they ask for seconds. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
mean, it's one of those things you have to kind of stick to your gun and be consistent. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a big thing, is be consistent with what you're saying,
Yeah.
because this time it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the next time you're like,
It's
you have
it's
to do
tough.
this.
Yeah. You want to give in because it's frustrating and it's a pain in the butt for you, for me. Like
Right.
it's a pain for me to have to deal with that. So in some way, I want to just give in. And go, fine, just here. What do you want? Make you something else, or give her cereal, or whatever the case is, because it
Right.
gets her to quit. Gets her to quit crying. Gets her to quit whatever. She gets what she wants. But that's the problem. You
Right.
do that once, then you got to do it again, then again, then again, and then the problem never ends. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you have to stick to your guns, fix the issue, deal with the problem, absorb some pain and some suffering on your end.
Right.
But you do that in the beginning, it'll go away. It'll
Mm-hmm.
stop. So
Yeah, that's the big thing, is
yeah,
finding the happy medium. And mind you, kind of bending every now and then is not a bad thing, but
right.
giving it, like I said, for me, I'm consistent as long as you're
Hmm.
consistent. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we can probably go into another whole hour or so of other things, because I can tell
Yeah.
you my list over here. I have car survival kits. I have, like you
Mm.
mentioned, DEI projects or DIY projects. We don't,
DEI projects. Wait
we,
a second.
no, we definitely don't do that in this house. So that, and using technology for hacks and things like
All
that.
whites are racist.
I'll be honest with you. I am considered white technically. The funny thing is if I don't tell anyone my name, most people, I've been accused of being Indian, Mediterranean,
Mm.
Middle Eastern, especially in the summer. Growing up, I was called all sorts of Mexican slurs.
Yeah, it gets all dark from the sun. Yeah.
Yeah. And like
I
my
I'm
best
half
buddy and I, yeah.
Italian, so technically half Italian's Latin. You know.
See, see, everything that I am or supposedly am has been family mythology. So
Yeah.
supposedly we're on my biological side, American Indian. My mom's side, it's Irish. I did trace back my namesake to what or nobility in the English French area. So back to the 1300s where
Mhm.
we have a family crest. So
Yeah.
my family once were nobility. Then somewhere along the family line, we split, in the side that my family went on is hillbillies, like
Mm.
Kentucky redneck, dun 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 dun, banjo kind of music, hillbillies.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
Mm.
it's easy to go easy on tangents. Again, no DEI here. DIY is what I meant. With that being said, where do you want people to find you? Where can people reach out to you if they want? And how are you coming along with getting to
Mhm.
the point if somebody wants to do chaptering?
Yeah. So, obviously the normal place, pancakeswithdad.com. That's the best centralized location at the moment. Um, it does have a contact us page, and you can send me direct emails. It comes directly to me. Um, I also have all the Pancakes with Your Dad social media. I'm on X, Truth Social, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Um, So you can also, reach out, follow me there, contact me. You know, the more of you follow and contact and comment on stuff, the more it spreads the algorithm and gets us our information out there, and that's the ultimate goal. Um, the other thing is the American Liberty Foundation is in works still. Who would have thought? We're still waiting on the government, right? Yeah, the government's waiting 1,000 years to give me my 501c. Um, I mean, we can start little things here and little things there, but the number one thing that's going to help with being able to do stuff is funding, and I technically can't take funding until that comes through. It'll actually cost me money. If you give me money and donate money to the American Liberty Foundation right now, actually, I did the math, it'll actually cost me money, which is bad. So just wait for if you want to make donations, great. That would be wonderful. Just wait. I'll give you the green light. Um, and once we get funding, we can really actively get more programs. We can actively get more multimedia out there, pay for more advertising and stuff like that to broaden the programs. And that'll definitely help with a lot of that stuff. But if you want to check out the website, you can, American-Liberty-Foundation.org. It is a lot done. It is looking good and getting better every day.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear. And then, of course, Call with Dads, callwithdads.com. And we're on YouTube, Rumble. As far as I'm aware, we're on every audio player that's available. So I try to have it out there as much as we can. But you can find on Call with Dads the profiles for Mr. Pancakes, for me, for Tom. And we try to get as much information. So if there's something you want to hear about, let us know. If you have a comment, let us know. You can share us on any social media. We're out on Facebook, Twitter, or X, Truth, Instagram, LinkedIn, what's I have you. So with that being said, we're going to end this here. We have a ton of other things that we're planning on doing. We're planning on having great guests come on to give you great information. So with that, we appreciate you. Remember, share our information, share Mr. Pancakes at Pancakes with Your Dads and the American Liberty Fund Foundation. Yes, Foundation. Share all that and help us grow, because the more we grow, the more people know, and the better we can help people have better lives, raise better kids, so that we leave kids that are worth the planet that we have. So with that being said,
So we don't have purple-haired screamers
yeah,
running around cutting their genitals off.
yeah, let's avoid that and raise our kids right. All right, with that, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.